wacky world of MultimediaJay.
Monolith. The main system, the crown jewel of 2016. There wasn't too much that went really well in 2016, but building the computer in the middle of summer was one of the few things that I can fondly remember about 2016. Still, the dust filters and the noise filters work incredibly well, and the highly efficient system is running with its fans all the way down in these cold winter months. Still running with a DVD drive instead of Blu-ray, but at some point I will make it so that this machine can double as a Blu-ray player, albeit a rather bulky one. Well, it is kind of a disappointment that the fractal design Define R5 case isn't quite as sturdy as it was in the pictures on Newegg, but that's something that happens. Well, I can barely contain my excitement, as you can tell, because this is happening. This is the wacky world of MultimediaJay Beyond 10 Years, the kickoff, and a return to a more traditional format, more inspired by 2015 in terms of the opener and things like that. There's no more, I've been around for 10 years, baby, every single... Anyways, it's not quite 2017 just yet, but I'm saying close enough here on December 31st, 2016. Because as far as I'm concerned, there wasn't really much, other than, of course, this system working really well. There wasn't really much that I can fondly say that I'm going to fondly remember about 2016. I don't know if time really does heal all wounds, but will history vindicate 2016? I don't know. But there's plenty of other things I could be doing in the meantime. Like dealing with this disaster. Look at this! What? Oh man! Even though I did manage to get the great SIF trip in earlier, it's like you'd never know that I was trying to declutter this place after moving down from a larger place a year ago. Oh, and by the way, look, a Newegg box that still has something still sitting in the box, a motherboard, the new Tuxedo motherboard, from before Christmas. Wow, this whole Christmas thing really got in the way of, well... It's not like I've lost the vacation because of everything that's gone on this past week. We observe at the 9 to 5, we observe New Year's Day on Monday the 2nd because New Year's Day this year is on a Sunday. So technically I still got a few more days of vacation. It's not quite like the, that dreadful weekend after a vacation where you're like, oh, my vacation's over, now it's just a regular weekend. Can we look on the bright side as we head into 2017 here? Well, I'm not looking forward to potentially mixing up 2017 and 2016. It's going to be far more painful this go-round than previously. Ah, a light over by the project area. Now we're making some progress. First order of business. This is not a computer channel. This is not Bitwit. This is not Paul's Hardware. But since I do really like multimedia stuff, and computers are such a large contributor to multimedia, you will definitely see more than a few references to computers on here, although it's not the main attraction, so to speak. I look at computers in terms of their contribution to a multimedia environment. And this isn't it, although technically all those colors count as multimedia, or an assault on the senses, or... So this is what's left of my 2005 system, which we know boots. I was doing some hack job stuff with it earlier, with the power supply and whatnot, but we're going to hold off on this for now and just get this out of the way. So the tentative nickname of this system is mid-noughts, because according to our friends across the pond, that's when it was built. I was built in the mid-noughts! Because the 2000s is too many syllables or something like that. But this is not what I want to be doing anything with today. We have the... Yeah, it's a 2005 system. It's an archaic dinosaur at this point, not even dual-core, but not the main attraction. We have that motherboard that's been sitting there since before Christmas, which in my book is far too long. Let's do something about that. Likewise with how the old computers have bowed the crap out of these Sterilite drawers. Where can Fossil go until we want to do some stuff with it later? Decisions. This power supply, however, does not belong to the mid-noughts, mid-2000s system. It actually belongs inside this system, Tuxedo, my former main system up until I built Monolith last year, which was flaking out a little at a time. Due to the old Gigabyte board, I'd done a few too many overclocking experiments, and the board was never all that great in the first place. But this does leave me with a DDR3 era board, or DDR3 era RAM, so to speak, basically a system waiting to happen. This system did not take too kindly to becoming a secondary system, aka it stopped working, but it was already on its way out to begin with. So what we're looking to do today, if I still have the 2 bottles of stuff for replacing processors with and some thermal compound, which I can probably dig out from somewhere, I want to take this off and of course see how that board works. It's AM3 Plus, but it's backward compatible with old school AM3, so theoretically the Phenom 2 that once powered this system should work with a fresh set of thermal grease in the new one, if the processor didn't die with the motherboard. That's also a distinct possibility. First thing we need to do though is get this fan out of the way. Let's strip the machine down or just pull the whole board out. And also we gotta figure out what to do with the aftermarket cooling as well. We are off, ladies and gentlemen. There's the processor, looking like I used a little too much heatsink compound, but that's because I had to twist this whole thing after it spread. So, for those of you who doubt the efficacy of the dot method of applying heatsink compound, of course there are demonstration videos on YouTube that show, heatsink compound up against a thing of plexiglass to show that yes, less can be more. But let's see if we can get this thing out in one piece. Theoretically, this heatsink should work with the AMD hardware on the new board just like it did on the old one. At least I get that backplate out of there and take out this bogus board. My money is on the motherboard died, but not the processor. Documentation cam! For the purposes of attaching one of these Cooler Master thingies, AMD side, the middle is down and the edges are up in the air. Ah!
Epic fail.
One of the things didn't finish going. Well, this motherboard's kaput anyways. Neat freaks of the world rejoice, everything is out and I just gave it a good wipe down because there actually was a layer of dust building up under the motherboard. So I'm kind of down fanning the case, so to speak, to air it all out. Gives me some time to clean off the bottom of the heatsink as well, then we can put the new motherboard in. I also want to check the standoffs to make sure I don't have any extra standoffs. There's a thing these days where motherboards require less standoffs than they used to, so I got to make sure that the brass ones that we have in here match what's on the bottom of the new board. I am zonked, absolutely zonked out. You might be able to hear old clunkies clunking out too as I just turned it off a bit. Turned it down a bit before I came over here. I keep breaking away from this and binge watching YouTube for a bit, and eyesight's bugging out from going from screens to not screens. But this is the new board in question here. Actually, it looks nicer than the old one. Definitely fits the Tuxedo theme a lot better. It's the MSI 970A G43 Plus AM3 Plus board. Backward compatible, though, most importantly, with old school AM3. So let's at least let's get the thing for the stock cooler off of there. Blah, stock coolers! And prep this sucker for the third-party cooling. I want to at least see if the processor's going to fit in there, because I bent some pins on the Phenom 2 last go-around, had to very carefully bend them back. So it might be a little bit of a chore to get everything in here. Okie dokie, we have a 1, 2, and 3, we have a 4 and a 5, we do not have a 6, so one riser can come out. By the way, check it out, QC'd in 2006. This was originally used with a system that I put together in 2007 for the original Core 2 Duo system. It went to Phenom 2 afterwards. I might have to move some of these risers around too. We'll have to see how everything lines up before we apply power. It also looks like, there's some other, we got some debris to take out too. Leftover heatsink compound. We have to sweep this. We already wiped it down once, but there's leftover, and this stuff is Arctic silver, so it might conduct, at least thermally. I don't know if it conducts electrically or not, but okay, let's do some more cleaning then. Like how this board looks compared to its predecessor. It might actually have a few newer features than Monolith, like USB 3.1. So we just gotta take off that stock cooler holder thingy there and prepare for the third-party stuff. Now, I did take out a few more risers because I have verified that even though this is a full-blown ATX board, it is skinnier than its predecessor. So, nice to see I'm not the only one who's lost a little bit of weight since 2010. So, what we need to know, before we do anything further with this, Phenom 2 to there. It does go in, right? See if there's anything funky under the pins too while we're at it. And basically we'll cut things off early. If the processor is a no-go, then we'll go processor shopping later, probably next weekend or so. But at least we can know that ATX board circa 2016 is not the same as an ATX board circa 2010. Maybe that's a good thing. I like the color a lot better than that blue thing. Looks like something a clown would have in a circus. ZIF, zero insertion force. Not quite zero insertion force. We can see where some of the pins bent and had to be meticulously bent back in order to save the processor. Oh, that was not a good experience. Did go triangle to triangle, but it's not entirely zero insertion force anymore. The good news is, because this is AMD and not Intel, if the pins are bent and useless now, the processor's done instead of the motherboard, which it had a good run. We're talking 2010 here, so this could always become the 8350 system I never had. Why do I do this? I have to find a 95 watt 8350. I couldn't stomach another 125 watt processor. A tad less symmetrical than its predecessor, but what matters is whether the copper is making contact with the right part of the board. We're going to do a minimalist setup, just enough to see if I can get an error message that there isn't any memory installed, or that there isn't any VGA installed. First thing that should be checked is the processor. If the processor checks out, then we can finish plugging everything in. So the objective here, just enough to get the postcode that either the memory's no good or the VGA's no good. Since I think the backward compatibility of this board rules out the possibility of onboard graphics. So, we are in. Last go around I second guessed Arctic Silver, and basically I used a grain of rice method instead of the dot in the middle method. I'm not second guessing them this time. If I finish off this processor, then it had a good run. So let's put the RAM in, let's put the fan on there and get just enough in here to get it doing something, maybe. We want to get an error code that there's no VGA. Let's plug in all the RAM, all 16 gigs of it. I'm just laughing at the directions that Arctic Silver has. As you press the thing down, it'll spread the stuff out to where it needs to go. No. As you shimmy this back and forth trying to get those freaking screws tightened up, that'll put everything where it needs to go. Right, put in the RAM and let's see what works. Right, the RAM in there, with its bright red heat spreaders, really adds a lot of nice colour to an otherwise drab tuxedo board. Yeah. Now, it is a cleaner and sleeker board, though, than its predecessor. No clown colors here! Except maybe the red RAM. Just made my family crack up. It's New Year's Eve. I was like, oh yeah, everybody else is getting drunk off their ass, and I'm building a computer. Nerd! Okay, maiden voyage time. Bare minimum front panel connectors are hooked up, just the speaker and the power switch. Bare minimum power connector is hooked up, main and auxiliary over by the processor. The fan is also plugged in as well. So, we're looking for the postcode that the VGA doesn't work. If we get the postcode that the CPU doesn't work, then the processor's no good. And we're going processor shopping. So let's see if we can get ourselves a New Year's Eve miracle here. Of course, it does help if the power supply... Is that thing even plugged in? Not even getting any power. I'll bet any money there's nothing on the other end of that plug. Power supply has the power switch on this case has issues. Either that or the polarity's backwards. Oh yeah, well this time the power supply's off. Took a few tries before the switch made proper contact. There it goes. On about the 7th try. Speaker's hooked up. We should get the error. One long, too short. I'm quite positive that one long, too short means it's a VGA thing, but there's a simpler way of testing whether I'm right or not. Is this thing on? Yeah, terrible power switch. Well, I do hear it popping on the speakers. There we go. Gotta put some alcohol to the contacts on that power switch. Five beeps now. Ladies and gentlemen, that was not a postcode. That was, oh shoot, I have nothing to boot off of. We're into the BIOS. We have a fully functional system here, and we can now finish building the darn thing. Woohoo! Don't know if I'm going to keep the EVGA in here, but I have nothing better to do with this old 760. A little bit of a power hog, though, considering this is a secondary system, but if it's going to have some decent gaming potential, then it's got to have something in it. Let's do a cook test with this thing. I'll go heat up some pizza or something and watch some stuff on YouTube, and we'll see what happens to this temperature and see where it goes from here. It should not hit, the max temp on this thing is 67 degrees, so let's give the heatsink compound some time to cook for a bit. That's looking better. Got the main CPU fan in push-pull, so the pull fan can actually be lower down the heatsink and whatnot. Actually, it'll be a little bit lower down. There's a bit of heat towards the bottom where it draws it up from the processor, so a little more airflow down there can help. Did have to hack job the front panel connectors, though. The power LEDs on this front panel connector are right next to each other, whereas the original design had a third pin in the middle. So I have to chop that up a bit and follow the polarity to have a power light. Old case, hack job stuff, and a nice warm-up that diagonal cutters can do this. I think I might have to do that with Fossil later on as well. Let's see if we can get all the front panel connectors plugged in without having to use pliers. Always take the video card out if we need to. We can rebuild it. We have the technology. Let's get this thing back together, and let's hook this up as computer number 2 and see how well it works. Less than 1 watt standby power draw. We are reverting back to a hack job setup. This is Tuxedo Maiden Voyage with the new motherboard. Everything should work. It always helps if you turn the power on the power supply. Actually, no, it is on. We gotta do something about this switch.
Epic fail.
Yes, this is what you think it is. And that doesn't do it either. Bogus board? I don't know. It is drawing the standby power, though. I have to unplug a few things and replug a few things. Well, it's worth a shot. For those of you wondering what on earth's going on here, the power switch controller thingy from the Silver Bullet is going to the motherboard on Tuxedo. That's why they have to be right next to each other. Nope, that's not going to do it either. Look what works again. When it's back here and it has no connection to the network for anything. Whatever. Okay, a new version of Clary's available. I'm gonna goof around in the BIOS, and I'm gonna rig this up so I can connect to Steam. Here comes all the error messages. So I'm gonna goof around in the BIOS here. Looks like Windows 10 loaded up. Bet any money it's not. I got the mouse down on the computer over here. Properties. Connect to the internet. Connect to the internet to activate Windows Flicker Vision. Hello. Yeah, right. Okay, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna rig the BIOS in this thing so that when the power is physically disconnected, plugging it back in turns it back on. Put it in server mode. We'll figure out what to do about this half-dead power switch later on. Well, nothing wrong with hard switching the computer, but... Get Germanized! This thing is in server mode, so let's see what it does when we actually hit the hard switch like it's the 80s. It takes a while, but eventually everything should click on like it did over there. Cute. There's gotta be something related to how I have this thing hooked up. Yep. AC power loss. Cha-ching. It turned on after a minute on the other side. Gotta be something with the electrical delivery or something. Nope. No dice.
Epic fail.
We're done. Not because I found anything DOA or something else that was broken or something that needs to be repaired or anything of that sort. We're done because I've had enough of this thing. It's not important that this thing get running tonight, especially when this isn't the first time I've had this case have problems with the power button before. But I wasn't planning on staying up to see the ball drop. Obviously, times change. And quite frankly, I don't think I'd like to see the frustrations of 2016 extend to the very end of the year when the bell tolls midnight. No. 2016 and its various frustrations will not hold on to the end. I'm cutting them off right here and right now and enjoying what little is left of 2016. I have some leftover pizza in the fridge that I'm going to heat back up, and I'm going to do whatever the heck I want until the bell tolls midnight. Because 2016 has given me enough frustrations, and this ends here. But it's not over with this machine. We'll worry about it some other day. As it is right now, it's not the most important thing in the world to get running, and we know it runs just over here, not over there, for some bizarre reason. Let 2017 worry about that sort of thing. Oh, and by the way, don't go flooding the comments with everything you think I'm doing wrong or everything that you think I should do. That won't help the situation any. Regardless, we'll be back to this thing. We know the board works, but maybe the power button is finally let go in this thing. I have had problems with the power switch before, so I don't know if you can replace just that, or if maybe it's time to retire this case and give Tuxedo a whole new look. It's just a shame to have put all this equipment inside this case only to have this happen. Right then, 2016's frustrations end here. Let me show you what it looks like when it's right. First, you bring down the lights so you can have some nice warm lighting in the evening. And then you go to the computer that actually works, and you do this. Nothing to it. Perhaps in 2017, Tuxedo can follow suit. Till next time, this is MultimediaJay, signing off. Thanks for stopping by.